Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And today, we're going to be talking about the debut project from Emotional Oranges called The Juice, Volume 1. So we're venturing back into the muted, murky R&B rabbit hole, and let me pose to you something of a unique prospect. A duo comprising both a guy and a girl working together on vocals, picking up some slick elements of 80s funk, some of Janet Jackson's sultriness, but a lower timbre overall to play to more of a sultry and mature vibe. You bet on a group like that? Well, you probably would have sold me based on the R&B duo dynamics alone. I've long held the private belief that mixed gender groups with effective balance, they can rarely be matched. And it's been decades since you've had one with real consistent success. Hell, the surprisingly long-running success of Little Big Town and Lady Antebellum in country have proven there is a lucrative market for this. But if you look at R&B or hip-hop, you typically get the token girl who winds up having as much talent as everyone else in the group combined, like with City High and arguably the Fugees. I mean, the closest I can think of to making that balance kind of work and make more democratic sense is Doomtree with Dessa holding up her end with the rest of the crew, but again, that's hip-hop, not R&B. So when I started hearing some underground buzz for Emotional Oranges, and when I say underground buzz, I mean the measurable promotion through the Joe Budden podcast, and a certain manager who will go unnamed, I figured like with ASEAN, I'd give them some airtime. So, 8 songs, just under a half hour. What do we get from The Juice Volume 1? Well, here's the funny thing. The more listens I gave to The Juice, the Volume 1, the more I realized that there is absolutely a real comparison point to Emotional Oranges, one that damn near slipped my mind, but is all the more stark the more listens I gave it. The XX, specifically the more expansive sound that the trio began pushing on I See You that kept the tightness of their earlier records, but took producer Jamie XX's broader palette to heart for a striking and really quite underrated release. But where that band remained all the more tight through nuance and delicate, thoughtful subtext, Emotional Oranges, they're more pragmatic and direct. Nuance comes through in the more mature and complex relationships that are developed in the text, and where the XX only occasionally touched upon the interplay of the singers, that interplay is the crux of Emotional Orange's approach to narrative and balance. And what should come along with them of that comparison to the XX is the critical acclaim, because Emotional Oranges might have made one of the best goddamn R&B projects of 2019, with the sort of textured variety that just raised the bar in a big way, mainstream or otherwise, because yeah, I see this duo having real potential going forward. And we have to start off with our two main talents, Kelly Porter and Mitchell Bell, and that critical element of balance and restraint that would be so easy to compromise for a lesser group. Now, both are good singers, but their greatest strength comes through the poise, their harmonies, and control in the embrace of lower vocal timbres, close pickups, and minimal effects around them. They're not about to oversell the harmonies for easy melodrama when the dramatic interplay is a lot more complex but also more compelling, and emphasizing the cracking humanity adds to the root of a lot of their chemistry. They might not be romantically involved outside of the music, I don't know, but they sure as hell can make it seem convincing on this album. And the messiness surrounding a non-traditional relationship, it's not framed as extra so much it is the natural reality that just has to be handled however it goes. In other words, we're dealing with the mature R&B tag that shies away from explicit language and a lot of description, more reliant on abstraction and implication. Understanding the tease is just as compelling as the consummation, and in some cases, maybe even more so. Now, of course, that murky sense of ambiguity, moral or otherwise, in the relationship means that finding a clear emotional center that's sympathetic, it's kind of difficult to say the least. But that's also because Emotional Oranges are smart enough to realize that in 2019, the mature R&B tag allows the flaws to shine through and feel all the more realistic. We're dealing with human beings here. Hell, that's one reason why the tension of Hold You Back feels earned with her moving on to a relationship with a woman. I mean, this is 2019, folks, keep up, and being able to retort that no matter what he might say, and even if it doesn't work with the new girl, she's not gonna want him back anyway. But outside of that, and more to the point, the fact that this pair makes any sort of sense logically alongside each other is the embrace of some of those flaws. Both these people are moody and brooding, but have enough ego to know their value, and both know exactly how to push each other's buttons of distrust and insecurity. Hell, Personal is all about that interplay, and so is Built that way, where she makes it clear that she can handle honesty and stifle any jealousy she might have, because hell, if the jealousy's not making money to milk the drama, why start it? And that ruthless sense of pragmatism slides across the hookup on Motion, which is the better version of Normani and Sam Smith's Dancing with a Stranger, as well as pretty much every breakup song on here, from how Someone Else highlights his exasperated impatience and her refusal to give in to his ego, to how Unless You're Drowning anchors the hook and how they know they're very much not for each other right now, with the unspoken realization that they'd still come together if it all falls apart in that extreme moment. It's very reminiscent of the FXX show You're the Worst. Now the main couple's damage probably will prevent proper stability for them and everyone around them, but said damage probably enables them to be stronger than most, even if they're just plainly seeing other people outside the relationship. Good to Me, a prime example of this, where it's clear that all the cards are on the table, but even if they all aren't on the table, the hookup is happening, and any perception of the truth be damned. But the album is also smart enough to end things with Corners of My Mind, where both have realized that it doesn't work again, and one might actually be moving on for something that's a little more real, but there's still something in the margins that might work better outside of something traditional. A sort of naturalistic back and forth that might be lightly toxic, again, to them and everyone else, but hell, it's real. But here's the thing. All that lyrical nuance really wouldn't stand out as strikingly as it does without the right production and choice of tones, because this is an album that could very easily wallow in angst and smoky reverb and trap skitters and a very swampy atmosphere, which makes it all the more impressive that it doesn't do that. No, if there's something that gives the Juice Volume 1 a lot of power and appeal to me, it is a sense of tightness and controlled groove that runs through the entire project. You could fuck to this, but also dance to it. And it probably won't be long before that could be one and the same. Now, of course, part of this comes then from me being a sucker from R&B with some actual guitars, which balances out the liquid, almost pedal steel-esque tones off the sharper funk of the bass lines, and the right split between organic drum work and some program beats. Take the melodic post-chorus on Personal, the sharper echoing rollick of Hold You Back that plays off a very 80s-inspired drum cadence, or the liquid early 2000s R&B sharpness of Built That Way that feels the most modern, how it just ratchets up the tension in its mix, or how you got the obvious Daft Punk homage that plays across Unless You're Drowning with some of the vocoders. And it's not since Frank Music's These Streets have I heard an unsettled but open-ended conclusion to a project like this with an impressive amount of hazy but forward momentum. Even one of the songs that feels one of the most modern, Someone Else, with its program beat and the pitch-shifted, pitch-black vocals, it captures that necessary melodic tension by still placing the guitars in the mix and having a really strong melodic hook. And that's the other thing, where a lot of R&B in this lane would have the tendency to meander or coast by on dance grooves and then inevitably run long. Emotional Oranges knows that actual melodic hooks in both the production and the vocal line will be that much more catchy and infectious, and the interplay is fantastic. And just for 8 songs, it goes down pretty fast. Not normally what I would say for this brand of R&B. Now, if I were to nitpick here, outside of a couple flubbed rhymes on Built That Way, I'm not crazy about the hook on Good to Me. The synth gloss a little filmy, and while I like the guitar contributions to the atmospherics, the percussion feels a little bit overmixed in comparison with a lot of the melody. It does feel like one of the more modern songs, and not quite in the good way. Still good, but not quite great. But honestly, folks, this is so ridiculously well composed and structured that I'd be hard-pressed to find a lot of flaws beyond just wanting more of it. The chemistry is genuinely great, the sonic palette is modern but understands its roots and has a sort of groove that more mainstream R&B could afford to embrace instead of a lot of the trap stuff, and the writing is flat out excellent. Direct and pragmatic, but showing the sort of mature, emotional intelligence that can be sexy as all hell. Or to put it another way, I'm not sure what else you could want for this sort of R&B, which is why I'm giving this a 9 out of 10 and absolutely the highest of my recommendations. It's slinky, it's sensual, it's understated, but catchy as all hell. I feel confident in calling this one of the best projects of 2019. And considering it won't be heard by nearly enough people, you absolutely need to check this out, folks. This album fucks. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. I'd like to like and subscribe. I'd be more than grateful. I'm a little bit surprised I have so much praise for this, but yeah, when it's this catchy, when you have that level of pop focus, but balanced out with the emotional maturity and some great writing, and the chemistry is so good, yeah, you're gonna want to hear this. Links to buy and actually stream are in the description down below, and I got the poll up there for those few of you who've actually heard it. What do you think about it? I'd definitely be curious. Beyond that, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And Jay, just a friendly reminder, I'm going to be at Sonic Temple, which is a music festival in Columbus, Ohio, for the next couple of days. So if you wonder where videos are, that's why. You want to keep track of what I'm doing there, or even possibly a meetup, keep an eye on my social media, Twitter handle, Spectrum Pulse, Instagram handle, Spectrum Pulse. You all know how to find me. And beyond that, just a friendly reminder, if you're looking for Billboard Breakdown, it is on the new channel, link in the card right over here. But till then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.